Well, thank you so much for joining today. We're going to take this Grow Your Strength class week 4 to a new level. We'll start off with some breathing. Don't be scared. A new level. That sounds scary. It's always great to start a training session with some breathing, either in face up, face down, sitting, whatever works for you. For the next minute, let's just focus on slowing our breath and getting it nice and deep with every inhale and a long, slow exhale, relaxing any tension you might be holding through your body. After your next breath cycle, make your way to hands and knees. We'll flex and extend the spine, slowly rounding the back up, dropping the head down, letting the head be heavy. You can tuck your back toes and gently push the hands and knees and toes away from each other. And then thinking of your back as an inch vertebrae by vertebrae, just slowly dropping the front side down to the floor. I'm relaxing my feet, dropping my chest and pulling my shoulder blades gently together as I look up. You could push your hands and knees away from each other and see how that changes the tension that you feel through your body. Giving yourself one more cycle of that, and we'll come down to the elbows and just work on a position of the elbows where you can relax the chest to the floor. And from here, we'll just do some gentle neck mobility by turning the head to the left and to the right. Make sure you're not in a shrug. So center those shoulders, gently push into the floor. You can also add some ear tilts, ear to shoulder. Just loosening up the neck. And then we're going to take it into our Mackenzie rolls. So I bend one knee, bring the leg up and over, and position myself onto the side, elbow underneath my shoulder. I'm looking up and just gently mobilizing my neck by looking down. You can do that. And then roll back through the front side and over to the other side. So you're just trying to get a little bit of rotation, nice deep breathing, mobilize the neck with those head turns. And just take your time going through side to side. Good. Okay. So after your next one, we'll come back up to hands and knees and find our neutral back position. So it's somewhere in the middle ground between your flexion and extension. We'll go to bear hold. You can tuck your back toes, spread your hands so you're not just taking the weight on your wrist, but move forward into your fingers. You can float the knees off the floor and then just start to breathe. Take it back to a deep nasal breath and then a strong exhale. Three to 5 breath cycles. Take a moment to deload your wrist. Turn the palms up and gently put a little pressure into your wrists, stretching them in flexion. You can turn your fingers, kind of give them a break, and then we'll go into a high arm plank. You have the option to do this with your hands closer together or a little wider. Try to vary the hand width as you go through a step back into a high arm plank. Again, we'll take a short break and let's do one more bear and one more high arm plank. Now with the bear, if you find this a little bit on the easier side, then you can add on some rocks. So as you come up into the bear, rock the weight back into the feet and forward into the hands. Just adding some weight shifts. You can also weight shift over towards the left hand and to the right hand, trying to stay as connected as you can through your shoulders. Taking a break as you need to, and we'll do the same add of the rocks with the high arm plank. So again, find a width of your hands, step back, activate the hips a little, and now here's the rocks back through my feet, forward into my hands. Get a nice stretch through my heels and my calves, and then weight shifting over to the left side and the right side, keeping a slight bend in my elbows and trying not to hold my breath. Okay, let's get off the wrists and come to half kneeling. Okay, I think that did take it to a whole new level, so I can let that one go. Okay, so leveling out the hips, front knee tracks over your midfoot, and I'll turn to the side so you can see I'm just adjusting the heel to a place where I can get a good stretch and glide my knee, get some good ankle mobilization, okay? If you have limited ankle mobility, you might find that you want to lift your heel. So at a certain point, find that sweet spot, try to find your end range and work that around 5 times. And then we'll take that front foot out on an angle, same deal. Pull the heel in and try to get a good stretch through your knee and your ankle on this angle. Ankle on an angle. Got it? There we go. I like the half kneeling position to wake up the shoulders. So before we switch sides, I'm just bringing the foot somewhere where I feel somewhat balanced. I'm going to gently tuck my back toe, and I'll work my shoulders by bringing my hands palms forward and slowly start to work tracing where my body will let my arms go. So this is my shoulder mobility. I reach a point up here where I have to turn my palms back and just take it slow, kind of feel out what's going on in the left side and the right side. Push the arms back, and you can finish the hands for a moment just at the side waist. Make sure you haven't lost your posture, that you're upright in your position under your down knee. You can take one hand and lace it up the small of your back. Where do your fingertips touch? What about on this side? This is your internal rotation, coming back to the sides, then slowly rewind. So kind of feel out my sides, reach that sticking point again where I have to rotate my palms forward, facing each other. And we'll switch sides after this. Going slow with the shoulder work is the challenge. You can't trace your range of motion if you go fast. I'll give you an example. Like if I was just going fast with my arm, right? I can't get here fast. So when I do any joint work, the emphasis on going slow is so that you get more benefit out of it. Okay, taking the ankle out to the side. Again, working on the range, pull the heel in. Just match up this with the other side. So often when I do the shoulder work, both arms together, I kind of maybe sense that one arm is operating differently than the other, but it's easier to pull it out. So let's just go one arm at a time and just kind of think, okay, is my arm close to my shoulder? Am I maintaining my posture and breath? You're creating a movement map of where your shoulder will allow you to go today. And the more you do this, you get a little magic of consistency. The more you will improve your movement map. So now I take my hand up the small of my back, realign my posture, breathe, and rewind. You can create a little tension in your shoulder complex. I feel like I'm working, bringing this around. It's definitely not easy. And if you're feeling like it's a go, go, go day, you've had a little coffee, it is challenging to go slow. Other side. Yep, so this side does feel a little different. I don't feel quite as close to my ear. Feels a little tighter. How about you? What are you feeling? As you bring your fingertips up the low back and up to the shoulder, are you hitting about the same spot? So is your internal rotation similar on both sides? A little difference is fine, but if you find that there's a huge difference, then you might mention that to other practitioners that you might see, the physio, chiropractor, massage therapist, osteopath. Those kinds of practitioners have a different scope, and they can help you work on maintaining better balance in through your body. Okay, we're going to take it to some ankle work now. So taking a stretch strap, and you can do this again from sitting position or lying down. We're going to extend the non-working leg out as long as that feels okay on the back. Adjust anything through the back and hips and neck. And you're trying to get full extension of the knee, lengthening the tissues from the heel all the way down to the hip. So if you're tight in this area, this might be your end range. And I often see people like trying to sort of struggle here. So give yourself more slack and find the area that you can kick it out with that full knee extension. So then holding the leg in that position, we start to work the ankle. This is working the ankle mobility with the tissues at length, wherever that is for you. Spread your toes. Take some time to fully push the heel to the roof, checking that your foot is level. And then start to work about 5 of these movements is usually good, depending on your pace. On the slower side, ankle inversion and eversion. Slowly bring the sole of the foot in and out. I've got my toes towards my shin. And then you can kind of work some different angles as you start to go with toes to the roof. Now you can see I'm still swinging the sole of my foot in and out, getting a stretch through the front side of my ankles in what they call plantar flexion. So right in through here, nice long line. Finish with a few circles. Got a pair of toe separators today. So when I say spread the toes, it's kind of easy because they're there spreading them for me. All right, so I will switch over to the other side. And then set up the posture. Make sure this feels okay on the back with the other leg extended. Otherwise, bend your knee and go through finding that spot for lengthening the tissues through the back of the leg. Holding the leg in that position of length as you start to work your ankle. Did I call them toe spreaders? I think they're called toe spacers. I suppose that's the same. Okay. Get caught up in words. And then here we go with the sole of the foot in and out. Working up some angles to do the same thing with the toes pointed. And a few big circles. In each direction. Okay. So now we'll go to 90-90 position and we'll work on opening up the hips. So roughly 90 degrees, adjusting your posture, sitting forward, leaning into your front knee. You can turn your torso and lean into more like your calf or your heel. An add-on for this could be to gently push the knee and heel length into the floor. So I'm pushing down as I come forward, and you might feel a little more stretch response through your front hip. Changing the angle, not holding your breath. This is creating some good space and stretch through this front hip. The back hip, I find easier to come down to an elbow. Here's your internal rotation of the back hip. So as I lift my foot, you can see my whole leg internally rotates from here. If I push between the knee and foot down, it doesn't look like I'm doing anything, but if I gently push down here, I'm actually promoting more kind of stretch on the internal aspect of that hip. So you can do a bit of both, lift, press down. But this is definitely something I feel is worth paying attention to, how much internal rotation you can access through your hips. Okay, how about a hands-free shift over to the other side? Take your time to set yourself up. Start to hinge forward. How does the hip feel? Are you pressing down yet? Changing the angle. Pressing down between heel and knee. Popping down to the elbow, working your internal rotation on the back leg. How does it feel compared to the other side? Could try some presses as well. Really nice. Looks great, everyone. Okay, so now let's do hip cars. So come to hands and knees. It's just going to be one circle each way. You could do this from standing. If you wanted to, I'm going to gently tuck my back toes. Now I'm taking my knee off and I'm slowly working my hip through its full range. Keeping the weight centered between my hands. That's the challenge. Breathe. Push that floor away. Oh, I think I let my head drop a little. So get the neck in line. Reverse direction. And I'm just finishing off side one. So if you're going a little faster than that, you can keep going with a second circle. Here's side two. Challenging myself not to go too fast. Hovering my leg around. Tracing my hip mobility, creating a movement map through my hip. gonna pay off big time. Completing this hip side, let's take the knees wider and start to hinge the hips back to towards the heels. I've turned both my feet out gently, and as I sit back, kind of trying to sense how that differs, what I feel between the left side and the right side, through my ankle, through my knees and hips. I'm just shifting my weight, coming forward. You can turn as you sit back and look over your shoulder. Be curious with your eyes. Just gently mobilize your neck. A few times side to side. Okay, I'm going to take us into a bridge, and with the bridge, you can stick with a double bridge, or if you'd like to add a single leg bridge or go to a single leg bridge right away, you can start with a single leg bridge. So depending on how this feels, here's your double bridge. Lining up the posture, making sure there's not a big arch in your back. You can teeter your rib cage down as you lift, activating the hip muscles. For the single leg version, I like to take one hand across my rib cage and grab onto the back of my thigh, get myself lined up, and power myself up. So each bridge, a little gift to your hip or hips. Level as you come up, full extension of the hip, so not here, but here. Any higher, I'd feel it in my back, so be mindful of that. If you are feeling it in your back, don't go quite as high. Switch sides. And we're going to pair this today with a half kneeling hinge and rock. So I'm going to go with just a body weight move where I come back to half kneeling, take my front foot out a little wider, and pivot my back foot. The up knee side, arm comes up in the air, and then I'm just going to tip down to my down knee side and start to rock through the hip and then load back over my hand. So this is your half kneeling rock. If you have the mobility, you could certainly come down to your elbow. I'm going to hold the weight over my hand and then take another chance to mobilize my neck by gently looking down and looking up. If you're new to these kind of moves, this is a strong first or a kettlebell kind of warm up for some of the moves that we're going to progress to in time with the kettlebell practice. And it's a really great way to sort of sense whether one side moves as easily as the other. Opening the front foot and pivoting the back foot gives you space to come down to your hand. So it shouldn't feel too awkward unless it's brand new and you're really tight. You want to create the space, the opening, move your hands, micro adjust a little bit. Here I've got my weight over my hand again as I look down and look up, sitting into the hip and coming back up. One more set of bridges and then we'll come to standing. Okay, so onto your back. You know, one of my students is needing to sit today, so in the chair, you could substitute just squeezing both of your hip muscles at the same time and then releasing. So just a gentle squeeze and release. You can, it's called that the glute dance. You could also try to squeeze the left side and the right side. So if getting down on the floor doesn't work today, then just try that. The glute dance, double and single. For those of you that would be so inclined, you can do a glute dance while you're waiting to pay for groceries the next time you're in the grocery store. Nobody can check that. So there you go. tell him you heard it here. All right, up, activate, down, release. up to about 8 per side, okay? You want to try and get that full hip muscle working. Right, I mentioned I had these toe spacers. I'm going to take them off for my standing work. So finish off the bridges. Today we'll start the standing work with a little balance, and I'm going to just weight shift between the left and the right foot, opening up my foot, getting a sense of the connection. When you weight shift and just take the opposite foot off, you can feel a lot of things kind of light up through the side of your knee. So this is a very simple exercise for knee stability. I just thought about something kind of quirky, but you could do this in a grocery store too. Just weight shifting, you could just do this. And then that's just giving a primer to your knees, okay? A lot goes on in the knees when we balance, and in this program I've been doing forward balance reaches. So let's just do a couple of forward reaches, coming back up to standing, switching sides. You could reach for something stable so that you can use that as a guide to tell you, are your shoulders stable, or your hips stable? Take a breath and come back up. Starting your balance with your arms overhead creates a longer lever, and this is harder. So just take your time. Balance is practice of many components of things that are going on. So don't get frustrated. We can have good balance days and not so good balance days. We'll do a lateral balance today just to work the stability of the hip in a side pattern. So if I come up and then I kind of find myself into a kickstand. So here's my side step and kickstand. So I'm looking for this hip stability a little bit differently. And remember the knee thing too, right? So that sideways challenges us in a different plane. Just connecting with my foot. It feels a little less connected on my right foot today. So just taking a little time to think about spreading my toes and connecting those. Alrighty, so let's hit up some strength sets. We're going to start with this squat and double press up to 8 reps. And repetitions are always a suggestion. I'm going to take 2 weights that I can press overhead. If your shoulders are not happy, maybe you just squat. I'm holding the weights at my shoulders, adjusting my feet so that I can pull my hips down to a depth that I feel comfortable, and then press overhead. Nice and even. If we have tight hips or imbalances in our ankles, we might come down and shift, even very subtly. So pull yourself down with that thought that you want to be nice and connected and equal. As you press overhead, try not to shrug and just work the press and the press up and the press down. Don't just let gravity pull you down. Use those muscles underneath your armpit. And I'm not sure about my rep range because I wasn't counting, but that felt like enough. Calf raises are next with a ball between the heels. Where'd my little ball go? Here we go. So let's do 6 of these calf raises today. So straighten out the feet. Check that you're connected. Whether you use balance support or not, you can just lift the heels and see I've got a little balance support. Then I let go of the balance support and try to control down. On a good balance day, you might get a few in where you're not needing any support at all. Good. And after 6, we'll take some time to stretch the toes in flexion. So flip the foot back and just see if you can bend the toes a little bit into the floor. And bend more on the big toe side or the little toe side. And then switching. Oof, big toe side feels tight. Little toe side. And we'll keep that stuff close by because we'll do another set of that. Let's go back to the same exercise we started with, which was the squat and double press. You don't have to have your feet at the same width or angle every time. In fact, I think it's a good idea to change up your sort of footprint, but just make sure that your back is healthy. As you pull yourself down into your squat, you don't want your back plane to change. So the tightness of your hips, the strength of your core, the width of your feet, the angle of your feet, these are all going to be factors in the depth that you can achieve safely with a squat. So keep that in mind. You want to change it up, but not at the expense of hurting yourself. Pressing overhead and pulling. Nice. I know I've said this recently on this tape, but this is guaranteed to put you in a good mood when you put things over your head. No doubt about it. Okay, calf raises. See? Didn't even know you were getting in a bad mood. I mean, a good mood. Now the mood is better. We all need that. Talk about movement improvement. How about mood improvement? Okay, enough. Straight feet, connected toes, little squeeze of that ball, up and down. If you have strong arches in your feet or really good neutral feet, you probably don't need to squeeze this ball very hard. But if you have flat feet or you're aware of loss of arch as you age, it is a good idea to squeeze the ball, and that promotes that ankle inversion, which creates and strengthens the smaller muscles in your feet. So that would be me. I need to squeeze the ball a little bit, connect that arch and control. Okay, and then one more time through that toe stretch. Feels a little funky in a good way. Other side. Let's get some mobility in through our toes. Okay, so then we move to external rotation sequences with a light band. I'm going to start with my palms up and check the tension, not too tight, okay? And then once you start to feel like, okay, that works there, you can vary the angles, staying out of the neck. You could try one side higher. And I'm feeling different muscle activations through my shoulder blades, my armpits, and then could try some even a little hinged forward, recruiting differently with every pull. Excellent. Okay, start to feel a little fatigue in the shoulder blades. You're working between, I would say, 10 and 20 reps. Hip hinge with the weight in the center, 6 to 10. Okay, so depending on what you have available to you, you could have a kettlebell, you could take 2 dumbbells. The hip hinge is different from the squat because the hips go back to the wall behind you and the knees bend, but they don't go forward. So as you inhale, your hips go back. You want to be mindful of that back position, similar to the squat. We don't want to hurt the back, change the back under load. I like to inhale as the hips go back and exhale as I come up to standing. A bonus with the dumbbells is that you can open the shoulders at the top. Inhale, open. This is a very doable weight for me, so I feel like I can test the waters with how far I go back. Sitting back, sitting back, sitting back. Feels good. A little stretch through my hips and come up to posture and open. Okay, so not max weights, up to 10. As you start to go heavier, you want to be mindful of your rep range and not overdo it. Okay, then bent over row with band or weights. I'll show the band version today. So you could keep with the dumbbells that you have, go into a bent over position and pull elbows to the sides. Well, that's too easy, so you can walk your hands down a little lower. Let's stick with the number 10. Stay out of the neck. Hold those shoulder blades together. You could take the elbows a little wider or back to the hips, just to vary the angle a little bit. Good. And then from here, we'll go back to the deadlift. I'm just going to grab a heavier kettlebell to show what a heavier deadlift would look like. So you could go back to using dumbbells or progress to a weight from the floor. Here's a kettlebell. I'm not going to be able to open my hands at the top. Weight is in the center. Sit my hips back, connect. Back feels good. Nice deep breath in and lifting through my hips. Okay, so as you get stronger and depending on your goals, you might want to create something heavier that you can lift. I've seen some pretty creative breath in, lift, deadlifts with like recycled grocery bags and books or things in your house that you're not using that are heavy, because you can grab onto the handles and lift, right? The work comes from the lever of your hips. As you bend back, you don't want to round or extend. You want your back, that nice, comfortable, neutral position for you, and lift. Okay, let's go back to the row. So this time I'll show it with dumbbells, bent over position, keeping my neck in line, squeezing, releasing. Up to 10. If you feel it in your back, certainly stand up, give yourself a little break, reset, see if you can finish off the reps. Good stuff. And today I'm going to take us to a loaded carry. So we'll take a weight that you can carry on one side and pick it up carefully. So I'm going to pick up a kettlebell on one side. I'm just going to go for a walk and think about my posture, taking some steps forward and back in my space, connecting with my feet. The weight is on one side, so gravity could be pulling me down, so I'm working hard to not let that happen. I'm going to take some steps to the side. And carefully put the weight down, and then we'll switch to the other side. Depending on where you are in your strength practice, this could be a really hard exercise, even with 10 or 15 pounds. But if you start to think about things you want to do, like traveling, for example, one of the students said she's going to be traveling in February to Vietnam. Depending on the weight, suitcases can be up to 50 pounds, right? Sometimes you're putting things overhead in a plane, pulling off of a luggage carousel. These things are real life examples of a lot more. 50 pounds on one side is torquing your body double that. So that was 15 pounds, 30 pounds on my opposite side. All right, let's do the balance clock, and then we'll finish the class with one more of those carries. So the balance clock is taking yourself to 1 foot, heel tap at 12, 1, 2, around 3 o'clock, I'm turning my toe down, and then 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, balancing, and now into a curtsy. And then let's switch sides. Slight bend in your base knee. Toe, toe, curtsy. Now here's how to make this harder. Add a knee bend. So knee bend, tap, knee bend, tap, knee bend. And now I'm turning to my toe, trying to track my knee over my midfoot. You don't have to do the knee bends, but certainly a lot more work involved. Finishing off the other side at that knee bend. Breathe. Good. Okay. So based on my last conversation about carrying something that's equivalent to a suitcase, I'm just going to go for something a little heavier. Be right back. Here's a 20-kilogram kettlebell. Okay. So I'm not going to be able to carry this for very far. It's quite heavy. So I'll take a few steps forward, a few steps back. Am I controlling the side bend to the best of my abilities? I can. And I couldn't go much further. Otherwise, I would have bent into the gravity. But I got some time under tension that's a bit more realistic for activities of daily life. You don't want to go this heavy unless you've worked your way up to it. But I did this on purpose so that you could see the point, right? Wherever you are in your fitness program, it's important to work into it gradually without injury. If you have pain, we're not working into pain. Okay, so let's finish today with standing shoulder cars one more time. So feet side by side. So we're rewriting that movement map. We've done overhead pressing, bridging for our hips, our core, some carries, balance, pulling it all together. Mobility is important. Check how far you can go up the back. Rewind. I threw out a term there, time under tension. That's an important thing to be aware of when you're training and working to get stronger. Time under tension can be achieved in one set of something. But of course, if you were to do 2 sets, that would be more time under tension because there'd be more volume. So it's a very kind of easy yet complicated thing to think of. But be happy with 1 set if you feel good with what you did today. If you want to, when you receive the tape, just rewind it and do a second set of all the strength, even up to a 3rd set. Like, depends on where you're at in your training cycle. But I do believe that mobility first, then lay down some strength. And if that feels good, like I feel great, I'm going to just go have my day. So thank you so much for building a stronger version of yourself with me. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great week.